All right, everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Show Choir Nation, the premier podcast of the Homeroom Show Choir Network. I'm your host, William. Alongside me is my co-host, Ethan, and below me is our guest host for tonight, Dylan. Dylan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you
All
guys
right.
doing?
Doing good. Doing great.
We had such a big weekend of show choir, and we are already 5 minutes behind. So let's do this. We're going to jump straight into results. There will be no talk of Chesterton because we will have another special podcast this week, Wednesday. So mark it down on your calendars. Wednesday, Chesterton recap. We're going to go to Urbandale instead. The final results of this one, Johnston Innovation, first place, best vocals and best choreography. Waukee Millennium, second place. Mitchell Friendicu, third place. Millard West, West in the Groove, fourth place. Waukee Northwest EOS, fifth place. Broken Arrow, Tiger Rhythm, sixth place. And best band. So many storylines. I'll toss it to either one of you. What is the biggest one?
I mean, first off, you look at it, you see the GC. I mean, Johnston Innovation coming out of the gate in what might be the most stacked field of the whole year. So them coming out with best vocals and best choreography is such a huge plus for a program like this. Going into it, they seemed kind of like the betting favorite, but as time kind of gone on, more people were like, well, Mitchell's having a great year, or they seem to be having a decent year. Millard West snagged a really good GC early in the year. EOS did really good at Linn-Mar earlier in the year. And of course, Broken Arrow is no slouch in any category. So people were kind of like, maybe Johnston they may not have this one. But the fact is they came out and they snagged it. The storyline to me that does jump out the most is Waukee, under the direction of Tony Dam. I mean, you got to be so happy. I mean, this is insane. A bunch of people that I know were counting Waukee in that sixth spot. So the fact that they jumped all the way up to 2 here is very impressive. I'm going to keep saying it. Amazing schools in Mitchell, Millard West, Waukee Northwest, and Broken Arrow. I mean, you do that in 1 year. That's a successful season if you beat those choirs, let alone one comp. So in the grand scheme of things, this is such a huge momentum boost to Waukee Millennium. And that's kind of what I take away from this competition.
Dylan, what say you?
I agree with everything Ethan said about Waukee and Johnston. I'm also glad to see Mitchell still trucking along despite the director change, still putting up great results. Millard West, Waukee Northwest, and Broken Arrow, they may have not gotten the results they wanted out of this comp, but there's absolutely no shame getting 5th or 6th at a comp like this, especially when it was probably so tight that like 1 or 2 judges could have switched the score and the results would have looked completely different. So I think Waukee Northwest, Broken Arrow, still 2 of the top choirs in the nation. They're still some of the best to look out for. I know Waukee Northwest is going to have another shot at Mitchell at Bishop Heelan in a couple weeks, so I'm very excited to see how that goes out. They're both still having very successful seasons, and yeah, I think it just speaks more to the caliber of how insane this competition was to see them.
Absolutely. One thing that I do want to mention about Waukee Northwest and Waukee, I guess by extension, the rival of the Waukees now stands at 1-0 in favor of Millennium. In a less stacked competition, this absolutely would have been the main storyline. Waukee and Waukee Northwest meet for the very first time. The way it happened 4 years into what could have been a already burgeoning, scene or contest with these 2 groups going against each other. That's just the nature of how many options you have in Iowa and how some of these groups don't get out a ton. But Waukee scoring the first battle win in what may be a very long and very rich, not a war, but at least competition between these 2 phenomenal schools. Again, just to kind of wrap talking about this, I just want to second what Dylan said. One judge flipping one number here and one number there. All of a sudden you've got Broken Arrow in 4th instead of in 6th. So that is just the kind of competition that you're dealing with. I don't know how close the scores were. I don't have sheets. I don't necessarily need to have sheets. I'm certainly okay just kind of sitting down and saying, you know what, that was an absolutely phenomenal event. I'm sure it was great to be at. I know both of our contributors that were at Urbandale this past weekend said they loved it. Mm-hmm. So kudos to everyone who is there. Johnston, this is their first win of the year. They will go to Omaha South next week, where they will probably, or this week, where they will probably win again. But then to close the season, an unstoppable force in Johnston runs into an immovable object in Ankeny Centennial at Southeast Polk. So the fact that Johnston won here, I think based off their future schedule, bodes very well for them as well. We will now move to the Homewood South Central Classic, the results of this one. Oak Mountain Singers, first place, best choreography. Pedal Soundsations, second place. Wheaton Warrenville South the Classics, third place, best vocals. Auburn Varsity Singers, fourth place. Northwest Rankin the Ambassadors, fifth place. No special effects in finals due to a tornado watch in the area. So this includes the screens, this includes the boxes, this includes the backdrops, this includes bigger props. This includes basically anything that would increase the setup and teardown time. There were not any tornadoes or tornado warnings in the Homewood area even later on, but Southern competitions, we all know they have a reputation for going late. And so collectively, the directors of the finalists decided we are going to still be safe and get out of here ahead of when the projected weather is going to hit, but also keep our students at least in the best situation that they can be and still get in a finals round. So perhaps the merits of shows without screens and props and backdrops and risers is for another time, but simply digesting the results. What's the story here?
For me, the results are actually really funny to me because I feel like we've been talking about this comp all week last week. I feel like if you took what everyone said and you averaged it out, this is pretty close to what it would have, the results or what we were all saying. Some people, especially, were saying Wheaton might be having, quote unquote, one of their down years, which, I mean, do they really have a down year? Except their vocals would maybe be better than some of the Souths. So the fact that they got third place here and vocals, I mean, kind of proves that true, that their vocals are very strong. Pedal, I think coming out of the gate, this is their first competition. So beating Wheaton Warrenville's Classics and beating some other members of the South right away is a really good leg up. When we were talking to Bradley Davis earlier last week, he was like, all I see is 1 and 2s. You do not see any 3s, rarely, from Pedal. So the fact that they snagged a top 2 spot here is amazing. Oak Mountain, best choreography and a win. Those top 3 placements had to be tight. I mean, just knowing Dwight Jordan choreography, knowing how well Pedal can put on an overall show. And of course, Oak Mountain, their show designs are amazing. I'm so curious how it looked without a backdrop or props, so on and so forth. So that is something that if there's a video out there, I might try to go watch that. But yeah, a part of me, so I saw something on Facebook, an old Sweens alum was actually down south, and they were like, actually went to Homewood, went to the competition, and they were like, because they were in the 2000s in show choir, and they were like, I loved it so much when there's no props, no nothing, because it brought me back to the good old days of put everything out you have on the stage, don't worry about anything else and all that stuff. And I mean, I'm kind of a show choir purist too, so I kind of wish I was there to see this. For Auburn, you cannot be disappointed in yourselves. I mean, 4th place here is still a very good placement. Northwest Rankin, a choir that always seems to always be coming up, growing more and more and more in the South region. I'm very happy to see them that they were really competing at this competition. So yeah, I wish we knew judges here. I don't know how we don't, but congratulations to Oak Mountain, Pedal, and honestly, Wheaton Warrenville South. Going down south is not an easy task, and especially when there's weather alerts in the area. I don't know what that would be like. So congratulations to all these choirs for battling through probably a little hectic day at Homewood.
Absolutely. Dylan, do you have anything else to add?
I think this is a big win for Oak Mountain. I think some people, when they talk about Oak Mountain, they're like, oh, they're not as consistent. Sometimes they have like down years. Sometimes they're really good. I think Oak Mountain getting out of the gate like this is really good for them, especially after this very successful year they had last year, and especially winning without like their big props and stuff, and with like the frantic weather. I think that's really I think that's a really strong sign of a really strong season. Pedal, great showing for them too. I think it bodes well for them going into nationals and their other big comps. I think they have a matchup with Grenada. I'm not sure, but and then Wheaton South, definitely. It's definitely kind of an odd result for them, but also still a good result going down south, getting the vocal caption from groups that historically sing very well. And I think they're starting to get into their momentum a bit. I think in the coming weeks we're going to see them take off and round up into the powerhouse that we all know them to be. I think that's
for sure. There's absolutely so much to unpack here. With the little time that I want to talk, I just want to say about Petal. I feel like the knock on Petal, at least recently, is generally, besides from their out-of-state trip each year, such as they went to Ohio last year, they've been to nationals before. They haven't been competition ducking or dodging, I would say, but they certainly have not been choosing the most competitive events. I would not say that it's perhaps an intentional effort. It just kind of was what it was the past couple of years. And fairly or not, I think that may have been a knock on Petal from some people, or at least perceived to be. So the fact that they threw themselves right into the thick of the fire here at Homewood and came out all the better for it. Of course, as mentioned, they're heading towards Show Choir Nationals. There will certainly be competitive groups to fill out the finals field there. Bodes very, very well for Petal to crack the top 4 and maybe even the top 3. I don't know if we can start talking about Petal top 3, but who knows? We'll go to the Olentangy Keno Classic next. Marysville Swingers Unlimited, first place, best vocals and best choreography. Grove City Touch of Class, second place, best band. Loveland by request, third place, Beaver Creek Friends, fourth place, Finley First Edition, fifth place, Homestead Class Royale, sixth place, Dylan. I'll toss this one to you. Storylines nearly every spot in finals here. What is one that sticks out?
I do want to talk about Finley. They definitely did not get the result they wanted from this competition. However, I mean, I know all too well that first comp out can be a real doozy, especially going up against groups that have like 3 or more competitions under their belts, and especially going in with like a whole new creative team, new director, new choreographers, new everything. So I think Finley has I think they have a lot of season left. I think they shouldn't let this defeat them. I think they should, and I think they're going to get a lot better. I think they're going to round out into the Finley we all know and love soon. I think going into HOA Orlando at the end of the season, I think they're going to be a competitor there.
Absolutely. Ethan, what other storyline pops out?
I think it's Loveland. I got it. There's been a lot of talk about Loveland this year, and I mean, majority of it has been iffy. So the fact that they were actually, I don't know their placement in prelims, so I won't say makeup placements. So, but the fact that Beaver Creek was 3 and then now Loveland finished at 3 means that they climbed. So the fact that they hunkered down and they had an amazing showing in finals shows that this group is resilient. A lot of up and downs for Loveland in the past couple of years. Finishing top 3 at this competition is such a huge plus for them. I'm so happy for them. Grove City, another group you got to give your flowers to. I mean, growing and growing and growing in such a vast scene. The fact that they got best band and best show concept is huge, especially against Loveland, who seems to be, or not Loveland, Marysville, who seems to be on a tear right now. I put a meme in our Meme Monday where it was Marysville versus Solon. Why don't we get to go see it? Maybe next year. Hopefully we get a showdown like that to see who can kind of rule, I guess, Ohio, so to say. Amazing competition. Another shot I want to give is Grove City Class Act. I mean, winning all those captions against another really good girls group in Loveland Alert is such a plus. So, yeah, those are kind of my takeaways.
Yeah, there we go. I mean, you pretty much hit on a lot of the things that I was going to talk about. I think a lot of choirs are going to really need to push forward to maintain where they're at. Beaver Creek and Loveland and Grove City. Obviously, Marysville is always going to be there. But I think anywhere from 2 on down at this competition, that trio of Grove City, Loveland, to Beaver Creek, they're all going to have to keep running through this season because everybody is coming right for them. We'll move to Center Grove. In the mixed division, Franklin Central, best vocals, best choreography, best band, and grand champ for FC Singers. Zionsville Royal Airs, second. Fishers Electrum, third. North Central Counterpoints, fourth. In the women's division, Fishers Sound, best vocals, and first. Franklin Central High Voltage, Best Choreo, Best Band is second. Zionsville Corollaires third. North Central Descants fourth. Thoughts on either the mixed or the women's divisions from Center Grove?
Yeah, starting off with the mixed. William, are you in a position to look up stat for me?
Sure.
I gotta see what Fisher's North Central battle looks like against each other.
It has been North Central, I think, for forever, because Fisher's wasn't really a varsity program until about 2017.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, I mean, of course, the name that jumps out to me is Fisher's. I mean, winning a competition early in the year against at Anderson A-Town, against Franklin Community and DeKalb and some other choirs. We were told not to sleep on Fisher's. So the fact that they came out and snagged a placement from one of the best choirs in the nation, and I think definitely top 4, top 5, at least top 3. I just made that up. That didn't sound right at all. I mean, top choir in Indianapolis and North Central. I know North Central kind of had some shifting in management positions and so on and so forth, but the fact that Fisher's was able to climb a spot over them is huge. And of course, Franklin Central, they broke through. I mean, they kind of got away from Center Grove a little bit, broke through. This is a fantastic choir. I've heard on many stages that this is going to be one of those shows that you don't want to forget about. But going up against CG 2 times in the beginning of the year is just kind of a little weight that you have to go through. And the fact that they punched through it, went to Center Grove and won, I think is huge. And something else that kind of just jumps out at me is I think Roncalli starting off with a win over like Edgewood and Franklin Central at this competition is also big. This is a choir that's really good in their division. So the fact that they just keep the ball rolling just shows that Roncalli is a beast in that tier 2. So yeah. Dylan, do you have any thoughts on
Can I make a stat break?
Yes, we'll just hop in.
So this is actually a lot closer than I thought it was. In 2022, Counterpoints took 3 matchups and Electrum took 1. And then in 2023, Electrum took 2 matchups and Counterpoints only took 1. And in 2024, there's only 1 matchup between the 2 groups, and that was taken by North Central. So I guess it has been pretty back and forth since the pandemic between Fisher's and North Central.
Nice.
Dylan, thoughts?
I think this was definitely a very tight competition. I think it could have gone a lot of different ways, but I think, as Ethan said, a big thing that stood out was Franklin Central. They're proving they're here to stay. I think early season there was some talk like, could they fall to Zionsville or North Central? But I think this competition proved that nope, they're near the top of Indiana and they're going to stay there for at least another season and probably a lot more seasons to come. And also in the single gender division, huge congratulations to Franklin Central High Voltage for putting up a great fight against Fisher Sound, taking a caption off them. Fisher Sound is one of the best single gender groups in the nation. And I also feel like High Voltage has kind of gotten a little bit lost in the fight between Accents, Deptone, Sound. Like, I think those have been like the 3 headlining groups in Indy. And I think High Voltage is coming. I think High Voltage is coming for that podium position. I think they're coming for those headlines, and I think they're going to put up a fight against Indy for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Ethan briefly mentioned the small mixed results. Those were Roncalli Royal Rhapsody taking all 3 captions, and then Edgewood Music Warehouse and Franklin Central Encores. The small women's division, Cathedral Irish Adrenaline, best vocals and best choreography over Edgewood Sophisticated Ladies and North Central Accents. Our final recap, we'll do the Neosho, The Show. Troy Buchanan, Express Vocals Choreo Band, Grand Champion. Webb City Singers, second. Carthage Soundwave, third. Jenks Trojaneers, fourth. Webb City Bella Voce, fifth. Rockbridge City Lights, sixth. I'll toss it to our resident Troy fan on the podcast. How sweet did you feel when Troy swept?
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I mean, on the podcast, last week I said Webb City could win this one. So I don't know. Maybe I got discredited a little bit as being a big Troy fan. I don't know. However, I just love that these 2 choirs went up against each other in Webb City and Troy Buchanan. We never see this really. So the fact that Troy Buchanan traveled over there and they battled it out with some of the other Missouri choirs in the state, I think just shows that, hey, like guys, we are a very good choir over here. They will be seeing Neosho at Mount Zion, so maybe we can actually get a read on what Missouri show choir is like, because sometimes it's kind of a black hole, so to say, in results. And since some of these choirs don't go up against each other, a big placement I think is Carthage Soundwave. They beat a really good school in Jinx Trojaneers. So I don't think, at least I know of, I don't think anyone I know saw this coming. People even had Jinx in the conversation of possibly even winning. So the fact that Carthage Senior was able to grab that 3 spot is huge. And then, of course, Webb City Girls. I had them in finals. I don't think a lot of people did, but I think they showed out. Best ballad, that says a lot. I know Troy Buchanan's ballad. It's very good. So the fact that Webb City's Girls were able to snag best ballad is very, very impressive. And, of course, Rockbridge coming up. Oh, wait. We have 2 best ballads?
I did not look at.
Maybe they got best ballad for single gender. Maybe that's
they probably
the case.
did.
Okay. Well, then Rockbridge got best ballad for mixed, if that's the case. And I mean, what? I could not have seen that coming. I might need to hear it now. So shout out to all these choirs. Great day at Neo Show. The show.
Dylan, any thoughts?
Yeah, first of all, huge congratulations to Rockbridge. I don't think a lot of people had them in the finals conversation, and for them to come out and make finals here over Joplin, Troy Buchanan, Soundwave, a bunch of really solid programs, proves that they're going to be a choir on the up in Missouri for the rest of the season. And of course, I got to give a shout out to Troy Buchanan for winning this competition. And I'm excited to see how they do at Franklin Central, which we'll talk about later on the podcast, and of course Mount Zion, because Neo Show is also at Mount Zion, and I will say, I think if there's one choir that can beat Troy in Missouri, it's Neo Show. So I'm very excited to see how that matchup goes at Mount Zion.
For sure. It's definitely something to look forward to as we head on into the later season. I will run through some rapid-fire results now from across the country. Avon Accents picking up another big win. They're undefeated so far this year. They swept Plainfield at Ben Davis. John Burroughs Powerhouse starting off their season with a win at the Brea Olinda California Classic. Wouldn't expect anything else from them. Blue Valley had a bit of a last-minute schedule swap. Their original competition, Harrisonville, got canceled. They shuffled over to Cameron, another contest in Missouri, and won. So that is the first win of the year for Chamber Singers. Hurricane Red Hot beat Cosby, and that is the first loss for Cosby since, I believe, 2023. So no undefeated season for Cosby this year. Papillion, La Vista South, but all 3 of their show choirs in finals, and Titanium did win the Elkhorn South Crystal Cup. North Royalton Royal Harmony upset Huntington North for their first overall grand championship at the inaugural Kenton Cup in Ohio. Another group that was supposed to be at Harrisonville was Hannibal River City Review. They wound up bolting to the Keokuk Power City Classic, and they wound up sweeping that whole thing as well. El Paso Gridley Modulations reversed the tide on Dwight D. Eisenhower and got one back at Mantino after Express beat Mods last week. De Pere Jam Session held their territory in Wisconsin. They beat multiple good choirs from Iowa and Round at Minota Grove. Lafayette Jefferson came out on top of a small but really high quality Naperville North competition. They beat Wheaton North, Sparta, and Waubonsie Valley. Sioux City East is now at 3 wins on the season after weather forced them to Sioux Falls, Washington. They bailed out of Cameron. And Clinton at a shade. They were the only group in their division at West Jones. So I don't know. I guess it technically counts as a win, but I would be remiss if I did not mention them as they started their season. Ethan and Dylan, 1 point apiece that you briefly want to expand on.
I mean, there's so many. I mean, this was kind of a fun weekend to look at, especially in the show sheet. When you put it all down, you're like, whoa, a lot happened this weekend. I think something that's kind of fallen through the cracks, I know we talked about it a little bit, Will, is Sioux City East. I mean, this is a group that just keeps on rolling this season. Yes, they are on fire this season. And it's kind of like the fact that they've won 3 now and they're going into Bishop Heelan. I mean, that lineup in 10 days is going to be fun to see. Those top 3 placements of Mitchell Frindiku, Joaquin Northwest EOS, and then Sioux City East, the headliners, is going to be a battle. And honestly, from these past results this weekend, I mean, just going off it, you think Mitchell might have that top spot over Joaquin Northwest, but then you throw in the headliners in there. Who knows what's going to happen? 10 days, it's too long. I want to know what's going to happen. So yeah, that's one point I feel like we need to touch on. I feel like people are kind of sleeping on Sioux City East, the headliners. So can't wait to see what happens at Bishop Heelan.
Dylan, one piece from around the country for you.
I think I got to talk about Mantino a little bit. I'm, of course, glad to see El Paso get back in the win column. And I also want to give a shout out to Dwight D. Eisenhower for the incredible season they've been having.
It's over now. They had.
Oh, it's over now? Oh.
It's over.
So they missed finals at their first comp, and then they got a really high place. They got a good placement at Sauk Prairie and they broke a lot of people's expectations by getting into finals there. And then they beat El Paso at Crete, and at this competition, while they didn't repeat beating El Paso, they beat Glenwood, who is a group that beat them to get into finals at Milton, which is a competition they didn't make finals. So I think Eisenhower just had a really good season. They've climbed to a very high point in Illinois show choir, and I'm excited to see what they have in the future.
Well, if we're kind of going on the homer trend, I have to talk about De Pere. I really did not have a lot of confidence in them to beat either Iowa City or Lewis Central. Both were very good groups. Lewis Central, I think they had a couple really great competitions at the start of the season. I don't know if they've had the back half of the season that they've wanted. They will certainly close out well by hosting a phenomenal Clash of the Titans competition. Iowa City High coming up just short in second as well. Another shout out goes to North Royalton. I'm a sucker for first-time winners. I seem to mention them every week. Check out our Winners Circle column, which I will write and will publish on Wednesday. But they were certainly not the favorites to win. They were heavy underdogs under Huntington North, and that program has grown a ton with Sidney Johnigan in the past few seasons. So really happy for North Royalton. We've got 2/3 of this podcast being Illinois show choir experts. So we're going to talk about Illinois show choir for our bridge segment today. And we kind of touched on this a little bit when we were talking about Mantino and how there've been some flips going on, but just Dylan, Ethan, both of you, in kind of a short fashion, how would you describe how the Illinois show choir season has been going so far this year?
Chaotic. I feel like this year is very chaotic. This last weekend, I still haven't wrapped my head around it. It's kind of funny where all the Illinois choirs win, especially the bigger ones. They went up against some fantastic competition this year. I feel like this upcoming week in our poll rankings, we might have 3 choirs who have first place votes. That's kind of where Illinois is in terms of their top choirs. So Wheaton North, I mean, they were our top choir last week. Of course, just got beat by Lafayette Jefferson. However, they did take vocals and they took a bunch of other captions. However, Lafayette Jefferson coming out of the woodworks after leaving their ISMA competition or ISMA Rant competition to head up to Naperville North. And I feel like there's a bunch of choirs also just like in the woodworks, just like you're not hearing a lot, but they're staying solid. And that's Mantino, Mundelein, Naperville North. I feel like those choirs are still very prevalent in our scene. However, they're just kind of lying in the weeds while other choirs are out there trying to fight for their lives, so to say. This season's going to be very interesting to see where it ends up because, there's so much more to go. We're about to hit the heap of the Illinois season and where shows, if they don't turn around, you're kind of going to get left behind. So, Dylan, how do you think this Illinois season's gone so far?
It's definitely been chaotic. I think it's definitely been an odd season for a lot of choirs. But I will say Illinois is one of those states where they're solid starting out, but they don't get really good until March. And those late season competitions like El Paso next weekend, Glenwood, Mount Zion, Wheaton South, those are going to be competitions where I think Illinois groups are going to have a chance to really show themselves because a lot of Illinois groups have been slow starters in recent seasons. I know Wheaton South, both this year and last year, didn't get the results they wanted at their first couple competitions. El Paso has always been a slow starter. Mount Zion's been a slow starter the past couple seasons, but come March, they're getting some big victories going, and I think that's how it's going to come here. I think that's going to how it's going to go in the later half of the season.
All right. I mean, I would certainly, from an outsider's perspective, agree that Illinois really kicks into gear in March. I think, interestingly enough, like kind of the premier competitions, which this year are Mount Zion and Wheaton, have almost more of a national feel to them than an Illinois feel to them. But I mean, when you're attracting lineups that are that great, that's not a bad side effect to have, I don't think. Dylan, you kind of mentioned one already with Eisenhower, but Ethan, I want to ask you this as well. What's been a group that's kind of surprised you, maybe in a good way, maybe in a kind of, maybe they've had a bit of a slow start, but who is a group that has been really varied in terms of how they've done and where you think they would be?
I feel like I'm being really, really based, but I mean, I feel like all of them. I don't really know where to go with this. I feel like every choir, either it's good or bad, or my expectations of the state are changing rapidly, especially from where they were last season. However, if I want to pick out one singular group, I'm going to go in a direction maybe a lot of people wouldn't think. I am very surprised in Mother McAuley at Chesterton this last weekend, and I feel like they have to get a shout out. We will talk about them in the Chesterton podcast, but I feel like in this segment, I had to shout them out. Winning best band and getting into single clef finals, tier 2, especially with Danville, Contemporaries, and Pike Mystics, is such an accomplishment. I have to give them their flowers. I did another game, I guess. You got to say that meme. We say it all the time. Sorry, Mother McAuley, I wasn't familiar with your game. And I definitely wasn't at Chesterton. So, but then I just said another choir right there, Danville Contemporaries. I mean, that's a choir that seems to be battling the season. And I feel like they're kind of getting slept on in some ways. I believe they beat El Paso High Fidelity already this season. And El Paso High Fidelity was kind of ranked as maybe our top 3 choir to begin this year in single clef. So Danville proving us wrong there in single clef division. Yeah, I like I said, though, I feel like my understanding of the state is changing at a rapid pace. And it's kind of a weird time to jump into the Illinois scene. So, Dylan, any thoughts?
I think you hit the nail right on the head there. I think there's a lot. I think the state is changing rapidly. I think there's a lot of ebb and flow going on in the state, and I think I'm excited to see like how it changes within the latter half of this decade. And I think it's gonna be really interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly will be. We touched on this also like a little bit, but kind of starting this weekend with El Paso and then running through Glenwood, running through Mount Zion, running through Wheaton Warrenville South. You really have 4 huge lineups in a row for Illinois Show Choir. And then you combine that with just competitions all over the board in Illinois disappearing. Danville no longer hosts. Sullivan may host next year. I believe their facilities might be ready to host a show choir competition next year. That was more related to school construction. John Hersey is canceled this year. Herscher is canceled this year. Piatone is canceled this year. I believe that's 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I'm trying to ask is the dueling effects of tons of national choirs coming in and also tons of competitions being canceled. Do you think the increased competitiveness is good for the scene or bad for the scene?
Off rip, I'm going to say bad. Off rip, I think it's teetering on the line. I mean, as someone who wants to see the growth of Illinois Show Choir, always, I feel like canceling competitions is always a bad thing. It just is, plain and simple. I mean, these are huge fundraisers, especially from the groups that you mentioned are tier 2 groups. And they are groups that heavily rely on their fundraising and their competitions. So and I mean, and these are competitions that pull out of state groups as well. Maybe not to the same caliber. It'd always be like maybe like 2 groups that you're like, okay, there's a top 2 battle going on here. But I mean, there were still really competitive competitions. However, as a show choir fan, and I love all these choirs going to these big competitions in Glenwood, Mount Zion, Wheaton, so on and so forth. Because I mean, even though the state seems to be declining in some sort of way, the fact that all these major show choirs are still coming to the state is a plus. It helps boost us up a little bit. People still love Illinois Show Choir. They still love the the events they put on, and I'm very grateful for that. I feel like even with Sullivan, Hersher, and Watsika and Piotone canceling this year, I still feel like it is allowing I don't know. I don't want to say better, but I feel like lineups in the tier 2 division are more compact with Illinois Choir. So you kind of see everyone. And that is at El Paso. That is at Manteno, Glenwood for sure. So I feel like even though those other competitions are getting canceled, you are stacking up Illinois Show Choir on top of each other at every single competition. Now, a part of me is kind of hurt that Mount Zion isn't as local anymore. Local, so El Paso's always kind of been local. Glenwood has been local, but they've always had that reach out to the south and so on and so forth in Indiana. But yeah, in the end, I feel like it's leaning towards bad because I always want more competitions in the state, especially for these small programs who'd be hosting. However, you gotta love all these powerful big groups still coming back to Illinois to show off what they got.
Absolutely. Dylan, I would love to hear your thoughts as well.
I agree with Ethan definitely that I think not having those smaller competitions it hurts the state a bit, but as you said, I think I would love to see Sullivan back next year. Maybe Piotone, Hersey can get back next year, Hersher. I think those comps are down, but I don't think they're out. I think they can definitely make a comeback next year. I remember Hersher last year had a really good lineup, and I remember Hersey also had a really good lineup last year. So sometimes it's just some years you just don't get the same lineups you get other years, and that's okay. But I'm also really excited to see how these big competitions, like El Paso, Glenwood, I cannot wait to see how these shake out. They're just going to be bloodbath events and some of the most exciting in the season. And one of those, El Paso, I'm currently 20 minutes from, so I'm going to be heading there to see it live. So it's going to be exciting for sure.
Well, we may have to have you text us some firsthand thoughts about El Paso. Like you guys said, huge lineup. Just going off rip, this will be the first time that Wheaton Warrenville South will be competing in state this year. They went to, of course, Minnesota and Alabama first. So glad to see Wheaton South back in here. Mount Zion, late addition to this competition. Manteno won this competition last year. Naperville North. Fully mixing it up with a ton of Illinois groups. I feel like we don't really see that much out of them. A couple of Wisconsin groups as well in Sauk Prairie and Fort Atkinson. Absolutely loaded festival mixture. Peatone, Pekin, Hersher, Peoria, Huntley, Mother Mac, Crete, Sullivan, and Batavia. And I will be very disappointed if they don't announce all 9 places because I really need to figure out how Illinois Festival Mixed is doing this year. Ethan or Dylan, please get me score sheets so that we can talk about them on the pod next week. Homestead. We did have a comment in the chat. I cannot wait for the Homestead predictions. You're about to get the Homestead predictions. The Homestead Classic Showcase, generally regarded as one of the biggest one-day lineups in the country, dual venue setup as always. So this year in large mix, we have Solon, Northrop, Northridge, Lafayette, Jefferson, Brownsburg, Carroll, and Huntington North. In small mixed, Lakeland, Bishop Dwenger, Garrett, Crestview, Bishop Lures, Anderson, Edgewood, the Ohio one, Fairfield, the Indiana one, Churubusco, Herbert Hoover, Jay County, and Columbia City. Let's just talk about large mixed first, because I feel like we may have a couple more coherent thoughts to offer about that than small mixed. What are the storylines and who's going to win?
So, off rip, I feel like, personally, after seeing the result that Lafayette Jefferson just got against Wheaton North, after seeing Carroll shows live, I mean, whoa. Changes my whole perspective of this competition. Noblesville having a very solid year. Brownsburg also having a very solid year. And then you have Solon, who is on a tear.
Brownsburg hasn't debuted yet, and you think they're having a solid year?
They haven't? I thought they did. Or wait, did they drop that? Did they drop a comp?
They brought their prep group to and their concert choirs to Ben Davis, I think. But
Oh man, then I apologize. I thought I saw their name somewhere, and I thought they got a pretty good placement. I mean, that's just what I think of Brownsburg, I guess. So, however, that is a very solid choir. I have no idea. I have no idea where this is gonna go. However, after witnessing the magic of Carol, I feel like they're gonna be top 3 regardless. I don't know where. We got Steven in the chat saying we need to talk about Solon's ballad. I haven't seen it, but I mean, it's got to be good if they're getting these placements. So I mean, maybe I just need to get a snippet of the ballad because I don't know. I have no clue. I guess I just kind of got to ride with it here. I'm just gonna go Solon in the 1. I'm gonna go Carol in the 2 because why not? It's the only choir I've seen out of this bunch, so I'm gonna put them in the 2, and I know they're good. Their vocals came out very strong, and their showmanship is spectacular. So I'm going to put them in the 2. The 3, I'm going to go Noblesville, and I'm going to go Brownsburg, Lafayette, Jefferson, Huntington North, which does not feel right, especially with Lafayette Jefferson just beating a top group from Illinois. So, however, I just kind of think that's kind of how the cookie's going to crumble. And that's not my job. It's kind of for the judges and the wonderful judging panel, as always, at Homestead. Yeah. Or should I say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The correct thing to say is yes. Dylan, I would be absolutely shocked if you had the exact same predictions as Ethan.
Yeah.
I do not. This is a competition that the field just got progressively more and more interesting as these comps played out, especially after last week. I think this is just going to be a bloodbath. It's really just hard to say how it's going to go. It's almost like Urbandale could go a million different ways. So my prediction, I'm going to go Solon in the 1 with vocals. I'm going to go Carol in the 2 with choreo. I'm going to go Lafayette in the 3. I'm going to go Noblesville in the 4, and I hate to put them there, but I think that first comp is going to hold them back a little bit. I think Brownsburg in the 5 and Huntington North in the 6.
Okay. Let me check how many finalists there are.
Yeah. I was kind of thinking that when I was doing my prediction. I kind of felt like, I don't know if they do 6.
There are 5 mixed. So there is going to be a very good group of Mrs. Finals here.
Yeah, multiple. I mean, we didn't even talk about Northrop. We didn't talk about Northridge yet. I'll let you get to it, Will. So I don't take any of your time. But I mean, those are also 2 very good choirs.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, I hate to say it, but both Norths here. Well, okay, the both choirs that start with North. Well, actually, okay, I'll put all 3 of them in this. All of the North choirs, Northrop, Northridge, and Huntington North, I fear are simply going to get outgunned here. I just don't know if any of those 3 have the ability to make it into finals, because taking those 3 out of the picture, you still have Solon, Lafayette Jefferson, Noblesville, Brownsburg, and Carroll, and that's your 5 right there. I really do see a divide between 5th and 6th, and I think that might be the one saving grace here, is that there are 5 finalists. Huntington North, they did take it on the chin last weekend. They were a really, really good choir last year. In fact, they were challenging some large choirs. Maybe it was comp jitters, but early returns is that they're not as strong of a group this year as they are last year. As for the top 5, like we kind of said, there are so many things on here. Solon going for an undefeated season, Lafayette Jefferson going for an undefeated season, Noblesville looking to bounce back after taking one on the chin to Avon, Brownsburg starting their season, Carroll riding an absolute heater right now. Just so many ways this could go. Looking at the judging panel, I mean, it's pretty tried and true Indiana. You've got Marty DeMott on the visuals. You've actually got Kevin Manley on the vocals. So that's an Ohio representative. Mike Weaver on the choreo side as well. Boy, there are just so many different things here. I think Brownsburg is going to be really determined to avenge their finals miss at Show Choir Nationals. This is not a choir that starts off slow. In their first competition last year, they took vocals off of Zionsville, who is a choir that most people have multiple steps ahead of them. So give me Brownsburg with vocals at the 1. All right. Give me give me Carroll with choreo at the 2. Give me Solon at the 3, Lafayette Jefferson at the 4, and Noblesville at the 5. And that feels terrible.
You better be careful. I mean, apparently we have we have one of the witches from Carol's show in the chat, so you better maybe.
Oh my goodness!
Hopefully it's the good one. Hopefully it's the good one.
That is. We'll do more Carol Love on Wednesday, but
yes,
it was quite the experience. Man, I don't even want to know if I want to be up for when results come in on Saturday night, because I'd rather just wake up to them Sunday morning.
Yeah.
We'll move just downstate in Indiana to the Franklin Central Hoosier Classic large mixed division.
Oh, she's the evil one. She's the evil witch. It's over. It's over.
It's over. We're getting cursed. Oh no. I am toast.
I'm toast too. I had him in 2. I mean, I'd love to be proved wrong. That's why I love this show.
Yeah, we're about to talk in a very similar fashion about Franklin Central. Large mixed lineup: Troy Buchanan, Newcastle, Glenwood, Waltham, Fishers, Center Grove, Carmel. Large women's: Newcastle, Tupelo, Fishers, Center Grove, and Carmel. Similar lineup here: 5 mixed, 3 single gender. Troy, Missouri, Glenwood, Illinois, Waltham, Massachusetts, Carmel versus Center Grove, and upstart Fishers and Newcastle that has dominated small mix this year. There is not one single group in large mixed where you're like, they don't have a story behind them.
This is so much fun. It doesn't feel like really heavy as some of these other national competitions so kind of feel like. But this is one that you're going to see the result and you're going to be like, okay, like you can't complain about any of it, I don't think. Seeing Carmel versus Center Grove is going to be a treat. I haven't seen Center Grove show. You have. However, saw Carmel's first time out. There's going to be miscues. We say this all the time on the show. However, that show, I think, wins anywhere else. Almost anywhere else in the country last weekend. So Linmar put on a wonderful show. Their choreography with Dwight is just spectacular. Their vocals, like I found myself just closing my eyes in the ballad and just listening to all the different parts, and I was like, wow. And then you throw in Waltham right there, who's right now, I mean, the best choir in the East Coast. I mean, they beat Daniel Hand, South Windsor, I believe. So throwing them in here is just fun. I don't know what else to say. I just want to say kudos to them for coming down to Indianapolis for this. Also, Franklin Community and Franklin Central going on at the same time is so funny to me. Just mentally, just looking at it on paper, like, huh? Yes, they are 2 completely different competitions. One more being a small mix type of deal, and one being, of course, a national competition like this. Then you throw in Troy, just coming off a win. Fishers, who's hot, like you said. And then you have a Glenwood, who's kind of an unknown coming into this. They kind of had a little hiatus in between their first competition, so we might be able to see how much they've grown since that first competition.
Oh, well, they did compete at Mantino last week.
Oh, they did. Yes, I don't know why I forgot that already. I feel like I'm fried, like show choir wise. Okay. However, this is a Glenwood that will be looking for a finals placement here, and are they taking 6?
They won't, because there are 5 finalists.
You're right, dude. This is gonna be hard. I don't know. I didn't see Center Grove. However, I'm just gonna take the other side of it because why not? I'm gonna take Carmel in the 1. I'm gonna take 2 Center Grove. 3. This is kind of where it gets hard. I think 3 is gonna be Waltham, why not? 4 is going to be Troy. 5, it's between Fishers, Newcastle, and Glenwood. I'm going to go Fishers just because of how strong they came out against North Central. So those are going to be my top 5. It could go anyway.
Dylan.
So Carmel versus Center Grove. It's going to be a toss up. It's always been a toss up, and it's just going to be such a fun. It's always such a fun match to watch at this competition because like you really just never know who's going to win it. And I think both choirs are going to be hungry going in. I think Center Grove is going to be hungry to keep their phenomenal season they're having so far up, and I think Carmel is going to be hungry to avenge themselves after losing to Linn-Mar at Chesterton. If I had to guess, I think I'm going to go Center Grove in the 1. I think I'm going to go Carmel in the 2. I'm going to go with Ethan and put Waltham in the 3. I think I'm going to put Fishers in the 5. I'm going to put Fishers in the 4 and Troy in the 5. I think that's how I'm going to put it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well then. Yeah, I'm just going to rip through predictions. I think the one thing that I can say is that I've seen both Center Grove and Carmel so far this year. Mm-hmm. So I'll take Center Grove in first with choreo, Carmel in second with vocals, Fishers in third, Waltham in fifth, and Troy in fourth, although I think that Newcastle could definitely swipe that last final spot away from Waltham. And who am I not mentioning? What?
You said fourth in front of, or you said fifth.
Never mind. I threw myself off. We also have to talk about single gender. Are any of you going to be at FC this week? Unfortunately, not. I don't believe. Speak now. If you're going to be
a little tad bit. I mean, these are some of these judges. I said this on our Chesterton preview. I've already seen Carmel last weekend. Like a lot of them actually have. So we can kind of see where.
I think just one.
Well,
one maybe two.
Cover. Brindes was there, correct? And then
Robson might have seen him in exhibition, but she didn't judge him.
Yeah, but she saw him, right? Probably.
Yeah, because they went on the opposite end of finals as Carmel, so perhaps.
Regardless, they hear the talk.
Yeah,
I
don't know.
So.
Okay, Brindis was on the panel and not on critique. So yes, she has seen Carmel as well.
Okay. Well, point still stands. I mean, if they come out and they do some notes that they asked them to do, who knows? It could be the difference of a placement. So it's gonna be tight.
3 single gender finalists. We haven't even talked about Tupelo yet. Tupelo, Fishers, Carmel, Center Grove, Newcastle. 3 spots. Where are these going?
Dylan, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I think I'll go first. So big question here. Tupelo. Tupelo's a big story going into this. How are they going to do? They've beaten Indiana groups before. Can they do it again? And can they do it in Indianapolis? So we have Carmel Accents, who just came off a big sweep at Chesterton. Debtones have won their past 2 competitions. Fisher Sound, who I think won it last year. Yeah, they won it last year.
Mm-hmm.
But they're looking vulnerable right now after losing captions at their past 2 competitions. So they're going to be determined to make that up and remind people that they are the best in Indiana. And it sucks that like one group has to lose.
It's the worst. It is the worst.
Yeah.
One group. I mean, it was kind of the same thing with Chesterton. How Mount Zion didn't make it. It wasn't the plan because of Northrop dropping. Was supposed to be there, so it's supposed to be 2. But one group not making it is just such a pain.
Yeah, especially when these are like probably the 4 best single gender choirs in the nation.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
There's others definitely in consideration, but definitely top 10 for sure in my mind. Yeah.
If I had to go with it, I think I'm gonna go Debtones in the 1, Accents in the 2. And I think Tupelo is going to sneak into finals. I think they're going to take that 3rd final spot.
Tupelo! Woo!
Yeah, I'm kind of on board with that, Dylan. I mean, I feel like everyone's looking at Fisher Sound, and there's just so many question marks. Like now, again, I did see Westfield, and their vocals were spectacular. So I'm actually not knocking Fishers on any result on that because Westfield Illumination is a treat vocally. I think I'm gonna run the same prediction. However, are the same finalist. However, I'm going to switch. I don't know. That dance break video Bradley posted is really changing my mind. It was so good. I was like, shout out Bradley for posting that. I'm gonna go with, why not? Tupelo in the 1. I'm gonna go Carmel in the 2, Center Grove in the 3. It's wrong, but I will take it on the chin because it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Also, having seen 2 of these shows and having watched a video of a third, boy howdy, Center Grove 1, Tupelo 2, Carmel 3. So I guess we have a slightly different take, but I think, who knows? Watch Fisher Sound win, and all 3 of us who had him.
Well, exactly. That's kind of how it might go. So, is this the episode where you cover the comps that happened last week? Just finished recording for TWR, the home up room. So I don't know if I missed it.
That just seems like it's a subtle plug to go watch the Warm Up Room podcast, which please do. Yes, Dobbs. This is it'll be archived as soon as the stream ends. So, okay, we're going to do one more competition on speed run mode. This is the Hastings Swinging on the River. We actually got a comment about this like 15 minutes before the stream started.
So
are any of you coming to Hastings this weekend?
People pre-gaming questions on our show now.
I originally had plans to, but Coulter Wall canceled his concert for Friday night, so I will not be going up to Minnesota. Coulter Wall was going to play in Minnesota, and I was going to go to Swinging on the River after that. So unfortunately, not this year. It's on my list of comps to get to for sure. The groups, this one in the mixed division: Benton Community, Holman, Bemidji, Bloomington, Jefferson, Millard West, Monona Grove, Papillion, La Vista South, Omaha Westside, Bloomington, Kennedy. Headliner are 3 Omaha groups: Westside, Millard North, Papio South, Bemidji, and Monona Grove have also looked good this year. Bloomington Kennedy just nabbed its first win of the year. That's already 6 groups. We also have Bloomington Jefferson in the mix. We have Holman in the mix. We have Benton Community in the mix as well. You can talk about storylines if you want, or you can just launch straight into predictions.
Millard West at the 1, Westside at the 2, Papillion, La Vista South at the 3, Bloomington Kennedy at the 4. Oh, this is kind of getting hard. Bemidji at the 5, Bloomington Jefferson at the 6. That's all I need to say.
Dylan.
It's wrong. There you go.
I'll touch on one really short storyline here, and I think that's Papio South. They've had an up and down season so far, but I think they're getting their momentum. They started off at Gretna. They got a really good result, only getting beat by Gretna East, that, as we all know, has been popping off this season. And then at their second competition, they dropped down to 4th, still against some really good groups because Nebraska is just absolutely heated this season. And then just last week, they got back in the win column for the first time since 2023. So I think they have momentum going into this competition. Bloomington Kennedy also has momentum going into this competition. They just got back in the win column. And, of course, we have Millard West and Westside, who are just absolutely formidable this year, both of them. If I had to go with a prediction, I'm going to go Westside in the 1, Millard West in the 2. I'm going to go Bloomington Kennedy in the 3, Papio South in the 4, Bloomington Jefferson in the 5, Bemidji in the 6.
All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Boy, this is certainly one of those deals where, again, good choirs, bad placements. Westside 1, clean house, all of it. Millard West 2, Papio South 3, Bemidji 4, Bloomington Kennedy 5, and I got to go with the homer pick. Give me Monona Grove at the. I got to throw.
I knew you were. I knew you were, and I mean it's not a scrape on you at all. They are an amazing choir, and I'll let you keep going.
A Wisconsin choir was 6th at this competition last year. It's going to happen again this year, folks.
Man of trends. Look for patterns every now and then.
Yes,
love it.
Absolutely. Well, we are at our 1 hour mark, so we're going to wrap the show. See everyone on Wednesday for our Chesterton recap. Dylan, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. For Ethan, I'm William. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your upcoming show, Choir Saturday.
Peace.